Alright, I gotta hurry up and clean this place up and get ready for the video before I lose my interest in doing it. Yay, here we go. What a mess. I can't have this in my background in my video. Alright, time to clean up in here. It's funny how a little piece of plastic can make all the difference in the world in me deciding to do this video or not. Because I need this to hold my phone. Do I really want to even do this video right now? Too much junk in here. I mean, does it seem disingenuous for me to even say, do I want to do this? Does it sound like I'm faking it? Is this like some kind of like ploy to keep you watching? No, it's really not. I mean, I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, but I feel like I have to wait for the right moment, the right inspiration, the right chemical combinations, you know, firing inside my brain to finally make me say, all right, damn it, I'm going to do this freaking video now. So, congratulations, you made it this far. Stay tuned for my most riveting video ever on Faith Evolved. My review of Planet Earth so far. Stay tuned. Alright, let's get this flesh suit perfectly lined up in the center here so as to not trigger anybody's OCD, including my own. Alright, I think we're ready to go. Video's recording. Alright, in all seriousness, guys, thanks for watching today. This is Jay with Faith Evolved, where I talk about all things spiritual, metaphysical, philosophical, and mental health. Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about my review of my experience so far living on planet Earth. Do I recommend it? Do I not recommend it? Should you run? Don't walk. If you're an alien that's thinking about landing here, should you come here? Should you avoid us? Would we attack you, or would we worship you? Or would we just treat you like, you know, just another alien race that's coming to visit us? And it would be just like, you know, meeting, you know, me going to another country and meeting someone for the first time. And we'll have like a mature civil conversation and interaction. Who knows, you know? Hopefully with all these Star Trek and Star Wars and all these different sci-fi movies of, you know, interacting with aliens, that we, you know, kind of prepare ourselves psychologically and subconsciously to handle that kind of a scenario. But I digress. You know, if you're, you know, celestial being or some other, you know, off-world being that is thinking about incarnating here to live life as a human being, should you do it? Now, I'm going to be talking to, you know, pretty much any being in the universe that happens to see this video. These are my thoughts living as a human being. Maybe you don't understand what it's like to be human because you haven't been a human being. It is kind of one of those things where you kind of have to be there, you know? It's like a joke. You kind of have been there to really understand it. Well, this place is definitely one of those jokes. You know, definitely one of those things that, you know, it's like you got to have that sense of humor, otherwise you go crazy. But anyways, so I want to give a disclaimer to this video, sort of a preface, if you will, that some of the ideas and concepts I'll be talking about do derive from the Urantia book. So a lot of my viewers are Urantia book readers, so they'll probably understand and relate to a lot of what I'm talking about. But if you're not, I highly suggest going to Wikipedia at least and getting a working knowledge of what the Urantia book is and what it talks about and the information contained therein, so that what I'm talking about makes at least a little bit of sense to you. But if you're into some new age type stuff and, you know, you're, you know, a modern spiritualist, you'll probably at least sort of get the gist of what I'm talking about. So what is it like to live on planet Earth? Well, I've been here for almost 40 years, and I can tell you that it's a very confusing experience. At one moment you feel like you are okay, and the next moment, you know, you can feel like you're going crazy. You can feel happy, you can feel sad, sometimes the same day. Sometimes you can be so sure of yourself, and other times you can be so unsure and feel so inferior or insecure that you just don't even know what to do, and you need the help of other people to remind you. But the biggest thing I notice about life here on planet Earth is it's very, very lonely. Now, how do I explain that? I mean, of course, we can hang around other people and spend time with them, communicate with them, but at the same time, we're stuck inside of our own heads, 24/7. We have our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own emotions, and everything that we experience is on the inside. So, of course, we can talk to other people, we can have conversations, we can write things down and they can read it. You know, they can hear us, our voices. We can write songs and, you know, play music and, you know, create films and express ourselves in a myriad of different ways. But at the end of the day, we can only experience it in our own selves. So, and I think the only reason why that bothers us, or at least it bothers me, is because I know deep down inside that there must be something more. From the day we're born, we are at the mercy of other people, our parents, and then our school, friends, employers, what have you. We need each other to survive, but at the same time, we have no proof that anybody else is thinking about anything but themselves, because that's all we can really do. And if we want to help somebody else out, we do it because, well, we'd want them to do it for us. You know, the golden rule, do unto others that you'd want to have them do to you. But I've never experienced what it's like to feel somebody else's emotions or think somebody else's thoughts, or even to have telepathic communication. So there's this part of us that seems to be, and it seems to be what everybody else experiences as well, that we feel like we're a part of something bigger. You know, save for atheists, we all believe there's some kind of higher power, some kind of source to our existence, to our consciousness. And we have things like holy books like the scripture, the Holy Bible, or the Quran, or, near-death experiences, transcendental spiritual experiences, like people who have had mushrooms or LSD. And they tell us about these otherworldly realms and other dimensions and gods and celestial beings and other, just ways of living beyond this planet Earth that make us think, maybe there is something more. But we have no proof unless we experience it ourselves. And that's probably the biggest frustration with being a human being. So I would say the first thing is being lonely, for sure. That's the biggest thing that we notice as being human beings. The second thing I would say is absolute confusion. Total and complete confusion on specifically what to believe. And especially if you grew up in, America, the religion of choice is usually Christianity. If you grew up in the Middle East, it's probably either Judaism if you're in Israel, or Muslim if you're in the surrounding Arab countries. And if you're in China or some other East Asian country, maybe it's Buddhism, or a myriad of other different choices and different denominations or the equivalent within each religion. It's like, what do you believe? So you have holy books that tell you the way to go. This is, and they're very exclusive. So if you're not a Christian, if you don't believe that Jesus died for your sins, you're going to hell. I mean, there's no way around that, right? And other religions preach about reincarnation, that we're here to, fix our karma, or whatever the case may be, for our past 20 lifetimes where we've made mistakes and we're still evolving. And some people believe that there is no God at all, and that we just, we're a cosmic accident, for lack of better terms, and we evolved from nothing. So it's like, what do you really believe? And when the consensus seems to point to one thing and then switch over time to another thing, it's like, okay, even the consensus isn't even consistent. So you got that. And then, then you have the new age stuff that seems to be revolutionizing religion and spirituality the world over, where people have had near-death experiences or have taken LSD and mushrooms and had transcendental spiritual experiences. And they say things like, oh, we're all one. No one's being punished. This is just part of our expansion, a part of God's expansion. This is part of our, ability to experience heaven by experiencing the contrast of this earthly realm, this low vibration. So there's so many different, theories and beliefs and just different ideas of why we're here, where we came from. We don't even really know. We're just guessing. And that's the, sad and funny thing about it at the same time. We have to live based on faith. And that's one of the things the Urantia book talks about. Even, Adam and Eve, when they came here, getting cut off from, the rest of the universe, being on isolated Urantia, they felt that loneliness and confusion as well. So what would I say out there to everyone dealing with this confusion? Well, I can't give you an answer. I can't tell you exactly what's right and what's wrong. It's not my place. But what I can say is start somewhere simple, because usually the simple answer is the best answer, at least to start off with. And that's seek whatever makes you feel happy. Seek whatever brings you peace. Don't waste your time worrying about the past or things you could have done right, mistakes that you made, the wrongs you've done. It just keeps you stuck. Rumination just keeps you stuck on the past. It's like the law of attraction. The more energy you put into something, the more it sticks around in your experience. So if you focus on things that make you feel happy, feel peace, feel joy, and or for, spread it to other people, you're going to notice that your experience improves and that you feel better. It's really simple. To me, it's like the most simple spiritual concept there is. And the only proof that I can give you, if you can't agree on a specific God or a faith to believe in. All right, so the next thing on this list is definitely going to be fear. Fear is definitely what seems to be a universal experience among the inhabitants of this planet. And it comes from just simple things like animal fear, where you're, walking down the street and a car almost hits you and you jump, that kind of instinctual response, that kind of fear, up until the fear of losing your job because of the economy, or the fear of your significant other leaving you, or something bad happening to your children. It's just everything from, animal fear to just conceptual fear, and everything in between seems to plague everybody. So even though I can't feel other people's emotions and think their thoughts, I can definitely see it, in their experience. And a lot of times I notice that we do a lot of projecting. So whatever we're dealing with, if we're really hurt or if we're really suffering, and we having a hard time, we tend to treat others poorly. I know I do that myself as well, because we want them to somehow, in some weird twisted way, see that we're hurting and love us. But we also feel unworthy at the same time. So we know that we don't deserve it. And so we expect them to treat us that way back. It's a weird, twisted thing. The Course in Miracles talks about it quite a bit. I'm probably not doing the best justice at explaining it, but we do a lot of projecting of fear onto other people, which I think is another way of perpetuating it. But it seems to be, one of the biggest limiters on human progress that we all seem to deal with. And the worst thing about it is it can literally steal our joy in the moment. Because you could be so happy and having a great time listening to maybe your favorite song, and then you get a text message on your screen that's really bad news, and it could just your heart, you can just feel it sink or get ripped out of your chest. And the worst thing about fear is it makes you feel stuck. It makes you feel like you're stuck in this dimension of hopelessness and despair, and you can't see a way out sometimes, especially if you get really, really, really far down to the lower vibrations. I have been there, and it's one of the worst feelings. I would never wish it on my worst enemy. But that's one of the things you can experience when you come here, is feeling like there is no hope, and that you can't see a way out of the situation that you're in. Especially being human and having a finite view of the universe. We're not always looking at the big picture. We can't see it when we're stuck in that tunnel vision of fear. It robs us of that ability. And sometimes you have to ride it out. Sometimes you need the help of somebody else who has been through it, and they will say, hey, it's not going to last. We'll get through this. This too shall pass. And you kind of have to take it on faith. But once you do that, even once or twice, and then that same kind of situation hits you again, or maybe a different version of that situation, you can remind yourself, hey, I was here before, and I'm okay now, and I was okay then too when I got through it. So maybe, just maybe, I'll get through it again going forward. So there is a way through it, but sometimes you have to go through it first, go through that experience of there being no hope, and and having no ability to see anything getting better. And you could hear this if you're someone who plans on coming to this planet someday, and you'll go, okay, I'll be fine. But when you go through it, that feeling of you'll be fine gets ripped out. So you have no way of knowing. Even the remembrance of it'll be better can get sucked away too. So you really will get stuck in that sense of despair. Utter and complete existential torment, really, is what it equivalates to at the lowest levels of it. And yeah, at that moment there is, you have no true way of knowing it's going to get better until you actually get through it. But somehow, I guess, we all decided it was worth it. We came here anyways. Go figure. So I will give a warning to all those prospective future humans that if you come here, most likely you're going to experience that. And I'm sure you were warned about that. I know my friend Christian Sundberg was warned about it, that he would go to this really low vibration, but it'll be worth it. And, you can't when you're feeling so super happy and in love with somebody, nothing in your mind would ever trigger you to feel like it's gonna get snatched away. Not in that moment, not when you're really enjoying it. Well, it's the same way with fear and being stuck at a really low vibration, especially when you're like dealing with an existential crisis or you feel absolute hopelessness, you can't see any way of escape for what you're going through. You forget that you were once feeling happy and once feeling full of joy and peace. And in that moment, it feels like you are never going to recover from this. And there's no proof that you ever will either at that moment. And that's one of the scariest things about being a human, is going through that just worst possible experience of being completely alone, confused, and on top of that, full of fear, and feeling like you're gonna be stuck there forever. So I will warn you, once again, to any prospective visitors of Earth, you will experience that most likely when you come here. But I guess it's worth it, so why not, you know? And I've gone through it, and even as a human being, I can say, you know, it sucked. It really did suck. And was it worth it? I guess. I mean, based on what I'm told I'm to experience after I leave this place and return where I'm going to return, I guess it's worth it. You know, but I guess we'll see. So the next thing I want to talk about that's kind of weird about living here on planet Earth is guilt, and specifically guilt about pleasure. It seems like, you know, we get jealous or envious of other people that are, you know, experiencing good things. You know, some of us are genuinely grateful and happy for them, but sometimes it's almost like we attack them for having a good time, or attack them for experiencing pleasure, or shame them in some way, specifically when it comes to sex. Now, there is this, you know, dichotomy of on one side, we tend to want to bless or, you know, reward those of us who are experiencing pleasure if they also are giving us pleasure. For example, we get these tons of girls like doing like OnlyFans and stuff like that, where they're basically getting paid to masturbate. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? They're getting rewarded for pleasing themselves because it makes us, you know, men, you know, feel a certain way. But most of the time, it's a shame. So the shame of, like, say, I don't know, some guy who, you know, is going out and, you know, maybe a 50-year-old guy finds this 18-year-old girl, and you go, oh, this guy's like basically a predator. He's preying on these young girls. What a sicko, what a weirdo. Or you have this girl who likes to, you know, dress, you know, provocatively and sleeps with a bunch of guys. Oh, what a slut. You know, what a slut, what a whore. It's like we like to shame people for experiencing pleasure. Yeah, granted, some of them are taboo and some types of pleasures are sick and twisted, and there is a lot of abuse surrounding it. But by and large, we tend to like to shame people if they're somehow experiencing more pleasure than we are. And we feel like A, they don't deserve it, or B, we don't deserve it, but we would like to experience it. It's like so weird and twisted. Like, why? I don't know why we do that. It's crazy. So is being here all bad? No. I mean, it's definitely, from what I'm told, it's one of the hardest planets to live on. But at the same time, there's a lot of redeeming values about it, like our art, our music, you know, the love of a mother to a child or a father to a child. Just, you know, maybe some kind of success, maybe someone breaking a world record or some kind of sports feat. You know, it's fun to watch those things, and in those types of cases, you know, we do appreciate other people. Yeah, there's some jealousy in there, but by and large, I see a lot of, you know, performances get congratulated and applauded. So that's, you know, definitely a positive thing. You know, there's definitely, you know, sometimes it doesn't last, but there's definitely romantic relationships that can be quite beautiful. You know, sometimes, like for me, like just driving with the windows down, temperature is 85 degrees Fahrenheit. It's maybe in the middle of summer. It's still a little humid out, and I'm blasting some of my favorite music over the radio, the windows down. I mean, you know, there's stuff like that. You know, maybe walking on the beach or hiking in the woods and seeing a beautiful sunset. So there's still a lot of good redeeming qualities. It's just that the negative things always seem to crop up, sometimes at the most inopportune and inconvenient times, and they force you to contend with them. So there's a lot of being forced to contend with, you know, rude awakenings, if you will. This is definitely the world of rude awakenings. You know, the biggest frustration I have is feeling not fully alive. Like sometimes something really beautiful will happen, and I feel like I can't quite get it all in. I can't quite grasp it all. It's like you get that fear of missing out, aka FOMO. Like you want to take your camera out and record or take a picture of it, or you want it to be, you know, I don't know, maybe share it with somebody and you can't because you're alone when you're, you know, experiencing it. So there's a lot of that happens being here. You feel like you have so much that you get, you know, feel inside that you want to express, but you can't get into words. There's no words in the English language or any language for that matter to fully express it. But your emotions fully seem to contain it. And it's almost like it's like getting squelched, getting like, you know, restricted. Like your soul can't use all your senses to get everything out, to explain it to people. So that's a big part of it, you know, just feeling like inadequate, don't have the proper apparatus, don't have the proper equipment to fully take in experience and then share everything that's happening in this experience. But the biggest thing for me is the feeling of, you know, not being quite fully alive. It's hard to explain. It's almost like my consciousness is half cocked or running on, you know, 4 cylinders out of 6 or 8 even. It just doesn't seem like it's fully there. I don't feel fully there a lot of the time. And sometimes I feel like it's cranked up a little bit when I'm having a good time with friends or playing one of my favorite songs or playing with my bandmates in my band, Adolis. So certain things can crank it up a little bit, you know, and you can really get into the moment. But I feel like a lot of times I'm, you know, reminded of, you know, either brain fog or just feeling tired in the morning or, you know, whatever the case may be, just not fully there, not fully with it. And sometimes when I really sit and look at it and think about it, it's like, man, that's kind of scary, you know? And just not being sure what's going to happen when I die, even though, you know, different religions and different spiritual texts and even other people's experiences of near-death experiences and what have you, remind me, hey, you know, this is just a temporary experience. This is not forever. You are the entire universe. You are part of God. You know, you'll remember someday. It's like, well, while you're in it, you totally forget. And in fact, you have no proof, like I said before, that that's even the case. You know, for all you know, you're just a computer program that's sentient, and then eventually a switch gets flipped and it's off and you're gone. I have my own thoughts and theories of who I am and what I am. I mean, some people say that they're Pleiadians or some other, you know, being from another planet incarnated here. I'm not so sure I believe in that, but at the same time, the Urantia book does talk about beings that are unrevealed. For all I know, I'm some kind of like, you know, being from another planet, a Pleiadian for all I know, incarnated here, and I just lost my memory of it. I don't know. I could just be another mortal, just any other average Joe, born to human parents, just like everybody else, just starting out here. And my thought adjuster is, you know, a virgin adjuster, as the Urantia book calls it, or it's an experienced adjuster, and has been through countless other lives before this that I have zero memory of. And I've heard other people talk about having memories of previous lives. I don't. It's blank. You know, for all I know, this is my one and only life. So it can get that, you know, bleak. It can get that blank. You know, I've said before, I have aphantasia. I can't close my eyes and really envision things. I kind of know what things look like. I kind of trace things a little bit, but, you know, I don't have images in my mind. My dreams are vague. I never had a transcendental experience or, you know, done drugs that, you know, let me, you know, astral project out of the, you know, into the outer space or whatever. I've had a very predictable life with some ups and downs, some trials and triumphs, but, you know, by and large, you know, nothing really proving most of the spiritual things I've read except for the principles of, you know, basically loving everybody else as yourself and seeing the fruits of that. And what happens if you don't do that? I mean, besides that and a couple synchronicities here and there, you know, it doesn't happen to me very often. I've heard it happening far more to other people, and I'm quite honestly jealous. All right, so before I finish this video, this is actually about 24 hours later. I exported all my video clips to make this video, and then I thought of like 50 million other things to talk about my experience here on planet Earth, and, you know, good things, bad things, do I recommend it, whatever. But I'm just gonna sum up the rest of them with this last piece, and it's just a disappointment. major, vast disappointment. And I know that the Urantia book says, you know, the disappointments hardest to bear are those which never come, and that's mostly true. You know, things we worry about happening don't usually happen, or if they do, they're not as bad, or you're given a way to get through it. But we know, you know, if you want to fatten on disappointment, well, this is the place to go. There's so many, you know, plans that we come up with in our heads that don't pan out the way we expect it to. There's little things like, oh, we're going to meet somebody, or we're going to, go on this fun trip, or we have this idea of a vacation, and it's never as good as it sounds in our head. The journey is also a lot of times better than the destination. But really the disappointments, really the annoyances, the little pinpricks of paper cuts that, just add up. They multiply exponentially to just make us miserable sometimes, or at the very least, very irritable. And I know I deal with irritability a lot. For me, being a human being, I feel like my patience is always being tested. There's always these little annoyances. One of my friends said that I feel like I spend most of my life doing things I don't want to do. Yeah. The vast majority of living here, we're doing things we don't want to do, like having to work and do chores and pay bills and attend family functions where we'd rather not go to. But I find that it's just the little things sometimes that can just all add up. Like, being stuck in traffic or having to go to the bathroom. Even worse if it's number 2. And, running late for an appointment or something like that. And just all adds up, just little annoyances. And just a chemical imbalance that ensues in your brain where it makes it a lot harder to deal with. So that's the last one, the disappointments. That, everything I just said kind of falls into that category. But, would I recommend coming here? While I'm here, hell no. Hell no. But maybe afterwards, like everybody else that seems to come back from a near-death experience or, a spiritual experience, they say, yes, it's worth it. So don't take my word for it. Only take a scattering of different answers and come up with your own conclusion. But, from the inside looking out, being inside, being planet Earth, hell no. All right, back to the rest of the video. So that's the biggest thing summed up. It's like the biggest question of who am I? What am I? What am I doing here? There's no answer. There's no book that, you can read that necessarily answers that question 100% for you to your satisfaction. You might read something from this book that resonates and something from that book or this spiritual teacher or that preacher or whatever the case may be, that you kind of like take the good and leave the rest. And that's been my experience throughout life. The closest thing that I've come to finding, as close to truth as possible is the Urantia book and maybe A Course in Miracles. But even then, I'm left still like, okay, well, what's next? I still feel human. I don't feel like I've evolved beyond or advanced beyond, or at least that much, from where I was before. So it can be confusing, and part of it's just accepting that confusion, accepting that disappointment of just not knowing. Maybe that's part of what this place is. I don't know. That's what I'm told. And I guess one day I'll find out. Is either one of two things that's going to happen. I'm going to die and, I will cease to have consciousness, or I will have consciousness in another form. And, maybe none of the spiritual books or the spiritual teachers have done it justice of what to experience in the afterlife. But at least they've given us something to look forward to. That's all I can give you, folks. I mean, this is living here on planet Earth. So it's definitely been an experience, I'll tell you that. See if I have another 40 years left in this third rock from the sun. Thanks for watching, and God bless.